Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. So, thinking back to last weekend, Fnatic was 5-0. Their academy team was undefeated too. Everyone was super excited. Everyone was super hyped. This team looked amazing, and they looked like the super team of not only the LEC but of the West. Obviously, a lot of people just automatically assume the better teams in the LEC are just way better than the teams in the LCS, and even though there's Team Liquid and EG doing good over there, it didn't really matter to people. Vitality was struggling, Fnatic was looking good, things were going great. G2 is having their downfall. It was just all Fnatic stonks. But now, fast forward to this weekend, and all of a sudden, a lot of people are wondering, a lot of people are starting to question, like, hey, was Fnatic a little bit overrated? Is there more issues with Fnatic in this roster than maybe some people, were considering after their hot start? And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video today. So definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy it. I would appreciate that a ton. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Consider checking out the first link in the description below for the merch we just dropped. With that being said, let's get right into this one. So, again, Fnatic was flying high last week. This week, not so much. If we take a look at some of their games, this is something I talked about in my video last week. I posted this video called, oh, Fnatic is a bit of a problem. And they were 5-0. They were stomping everybody. They were looking great. But one thing I did note is look at Fnatic's first 5 opponents. They played Team BDS in this first game, and they looked good. They played Team Vitality in this second game. And obviously, this Vitality that they played during week 1 was dealing with COVID, we have now since learned. And we've seen that has clearly affected a lot of teams. I think, North America dealt with their little bit of COVID, and players and teams looked a lot worse. It can make you, obviously, you're sick, you're not right, there's a million different things going on, but also, you have to quarantine, it can affect you, you're not with your team, a lot of different things. Vitality was dealing with some COVID. They also weren't playing great. They weren't on the same page in a lot of ways. This Vitality in week 1 is not the Vitality we've seen since. So yes, beating Vitality is a pretty big win, but understand that this was a much worse version of Vitality, and Fnatic was down a lot of gold in this game, and more times than not, probably loses this one, I think most people would say. But hey, they came back and win. Props to them. They beat SK. They beat Astralis. No comment there for either of those two teams. And then they beat Misfits. And Misfits overall, pretty strong. I think that's a decent win, but no one's expecting Misfits to be like an LEC title contender this year. I think most people at this point would have Misfits like the 5th or 6th best team in the LEC. So overall, when you're looking at 3 of Fnatic's wins are against BDS, SK, and Astralis, which are probably, bottom 4 or 5 teams in the LEC. They beat a Vitality that wasn't very strong at that time, and they beat Misfits. So, yes, Fnatic was 5-0, but there was a real question about the quality of their opponents. They hadn't played Vitality when they were humming. They hadn't played Rogue. They hadn't played G2, and they hadn't played Mad Lion. So, yes, they were 5-0. Yes, they were beating the teams they were supposed to. Yes, they were taking care of business, but hey, this team hasn't played a lot of the top teams in the LEC yet. Let's see what happens when Fnatic actually gets tested. Because, yes, this Fnatic team looks really strong. And they've been my pick to win the LEC since the beginning of the season. I'm not sure where I stand at this point in time. I still think come playoff time, this team's still going to be very strong. I think they're absolutely going to be a title contender. But also keep in mind that, hey, Razork is a guy who, yeah, he had a really great season for Misfits last year. And he was a, MVP candidate and all this stuff. But that's a guy we've only seen one season of. There's a lot of people who've been flashes in the pan for one split, one season. The great players have longevity over different splits, different years, maybe even different teams, different metas, and it's a lot different what it takes to be consistently great than it is to be great for a split or a year. So, can Razork live up to that? Obviously, there's questions about Wonder. Is he past his prime? Is he going downhill? Humanoid, he's largely considered maybe the best mid laner in the LEC, and hey, that's kind of high expectations to live up to. There's some really damn good other mids in the LEC. We have Larson, we have Perks, we have Caps, we have some really other great players. So even if, Humanoid doesn't play visibly bad, there's still a chance that he might just be the 4th best mid laner in the LEC, just because there's also some other very good players. Obviously, I think the bot lane of Fnatic is really strong and is going to continue to be strong. But hey, there were some questions about this Fnatic team that are fair to be asked. Now, again, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of that stuff, but they're fair to be asked. And this week did not go well for Fnatic, and now all of a sudden has a lot of the Fnatic haters and people coming out of the woodworks. Fnatic lost to Rogue. And this was not that close of a game. Obviously, Malrong with the 8-1-6 on Viego. Trimby 0-1-15 on Janna. Kind of crazy there. Comp goes 6-0. Larson goes 5-0. Humanoid 2-7. Wonder 1-4 on the Renekton. Hillsang 0-5. Razork 1-4. And then this next game against G2. This is the big matchup. Fnatic against G2. Everyone's coming out full force, ready to go, hyped up. G2, hasn't. Rogue, hey, Rogue was 6-0 or 5-0 or whatever. Maybe, maybe Rogue's just the best team in the LEC. If Fnatic's the second best right now, they still have time to fix some things for the playoffs or whatever. G2 has not been the best team in the LEC. G2 is not 6-0. G2 has won some games. They've lost some games. They've looked good. They've looked beatable. Fnatic wants to be not only an LEC title contender, but a team that can go to MSI, go to Worlds, do damage. They're going to need to probably be better than this G2 team. And G2 handled them. Again, a really, really rough game from Humanoid. He dies 7 times against Rogue. He goes 0-5 against G2. This was a rough weekend for him. And Humanoid was starting to draw a lot of criticism. Humanoid had good laning stats. He was up like 30 CS on Caps and lane. But then Caps just ends up having a way bigger impact on the game. Caps is 5-1-7. Caps plays well overall. Humanoid goes 0-5-3 on the Azir, which, not a pick we're seeing super commonly right now, maybe for good reason. But, Humanoid didn't play super well. I know the person who seems to be getting the most hate from all the Fnatic players right now is Razork. People are saying he's not having a ton of impact on these early games for Fnatic, that he's having some weird plays, he's not looking super clean, that he does look like the weak link of this team. Is that because, hey, he's still a member of a new team? Hey, he's still trying to get synergy with his different laners and stuff. Is some of the hype and pressure getting to him? Playing on Misfits when you don't have a ton of fans, a ton of haters, a ton of people, like a ton of expectations and pressure and all this stuff, is way, way different than playing on Fnatic when you're expected to be, again, not only one of the best teams in the LEC, potentially one of the best teams in the West, potentially one of the best teams in the world. If everything goes right, that's obviously what people are hoping for. Fnatic fans want you to compete for world titles. That's a different level of pressure, and maybe that's something Razork's still getting used to. Maybe that's something that, he's just not ready for at this time. Maybe this team will ramp up and be great by spring playoffs or summer playoffs or whatever, but in a lot of ways, Fnatic did get, some things exposed. And I know some Fnatic fans were saying, hey, this is a good thing. People were talking a lot about, can Fnatic go 18-0? Are they going to go 18-0? All these things. And those are fun conversations and debates to have and stuff, obviously. But there was a lot of people saying, hey, I hope Fnatic drops some games. I hope they lose some games, because to lose is to improve. If you are losing games, one, that means you're playing against other good competition. You're playing against people who are showing you your weaknesses, so you can go back and practice. You can go back to the drawing board. Also, it keeps your players hungry. Like, hey, there's Rogue that we need to work towards. Rogue is 7-0. We have a team we need to go beat. G2 beat us. We need to go get our revenge on G2. That keeps you hungry. That keeps you interested. That keeps you inspired. But also at the same time, it's like, man, was Fnatic a little bit overrated? Was Fnatic a little bit, were we getting ahead of ourselves a little bit with Fnatic when they had this 5-0 start to the season? I don't know. Like I said, I think Fnatic is a very, very talented team. I think and hope by the end of the season they're still going to be very, very strong. But man, the LEC is kind of tough this year. The LEC has a lot of good teams that are all very, very close. Rogue was definitely underrated coming into the season. Mad Lions was definitely underrated coming into the season. Even though both those teams made a lot of changes, they look good. Vitality is ramping up the last couple of weeks. They look good. G2, again, they made a bunch of changes and they just took you down. There is 5 very, very good teams in the LEC this year, and I still think Fnatic is one of them, and I think Fnatic can compete with these teams and beat them on the right day. But man, all of a sudden, there's not talk of 18-0. I think there is, some legitimate talk of, is Fnatic even going to be able to win a title? Is Fnatic even going to be able to make it to the finals? There are some great teams, and that's going to make the LEC super, super fun this year. And overall, that makes it way more interesting for me. That makes it way more exciting. But, I know Fnatic got a little bit more hate this weekend. They have some more people questioning them. They have people wondering if they're overrated. And I do think in some ways they were a little bit overrated. I think the talk of them going 18-0 was pushing it a little bit too far. Again, there's some good teams in the LEC. They were going to have a lot of work to do. And yes, 5-0 is an awesome start, but they look shaky. There was a couple of those games they should have lost. Again, they probably should have lost to Vitality just in the second game of the year. Overall, it's just spring regular season. It doesn't matter that much. I think Fnatic's going to be okay. But man, Humanoid needs to be better. Razork needs to be better. Wonder needs to be better. These guys need to work on some things and really need to pick it up. And yes, it is a long season. Yes, they are a new team. Yes, they're gaining synergy. But a ton of teams have those excuses. Rogue is gaining synergy. Mad Lions, G2, all these teams have new players, a ton of moving parts. So, you know, I don't really think that's the best excuse in the world. But, yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I don't know. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Somebody drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Was Fnatic overrated? Are they overrated? Is Fnatic still the best team in the LEC, the best team in the West? Or is it somebody else? I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, save today, and all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.